Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we're constantly upgrading the technology all around us. Our phones, our cars, our homes. But what about upgrading our own internal operating system? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating story of someone who did just that, upgrading what he calls his inner technology.
So, this is where Christopher McCora comes in. He felt all the pressures of the modern world mounting and decided his personal toolkit, his meditation practice, needed a serious upgrade to keep up. He didn't just want a small patch, he was going for a total overhaul. He wanted to make it infinite.
And this right here is the core of his whole idea, this balance between outer technology and inner technology. The outer stuff, that's everything from AI to the constant pings on our phones. The inner tech, that's the personal system you build for yourself to manage all that noise.
Okay, so what was the real problem he was trying to solve? Why did the system he already had in place suddenly feel like it wasn't enough anymore?
Well, it really just boiled down to this. His meditation practice, which had been working for him, just wasn't cutting it against the increasing demands of the world. He felt like he needed to up his game, to find more focus, get more productive, and just handle that external pressure better.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. To really get what he upgraded, we first have to understand the original tool he was working with. It's a practice he calls the agency modality. The whole practice is literally grounded in a specific spot in the body known as the dantian. You can think of it as your physical center of gravity. It's the anchor point where the entire meditation kicks off. So the agency modality itself is a pretty structured four-step deal. First, you put all your focus on that dantian spot. Then, you visualize a six-pointed star right there. Next, you use your breath to trace the lines of that star. And finally, you chant a mantra inwardly as you do it.
Now, the six-pointed star isn't just some random shape he picked. It's absolutely packed with symbolism. It's actually two triangles locked together. The one pointing up, that represents evolution, matter returning to spirit. The one pointing down is involution, spirit coming down into matter. So when you put them together, boom, you get this incredible symbol for the balance of cosmic forces. And as he's using his breath to trace the lines of that star, first the upward evolution triangle, and then the downward involution one, he's also inwardly chanting this mantra, syncing everything together.
So, that's the original system. Pretty complete in itself, right? But remember, the whole point was he needed to up his game. He needed to take this self-contained practice and make it bigger, more expansive, way more powerful. And that brings up a really interesting question, doesn't it? How do you take a specific geometric shape that's anchored in a very specific spot in your body and just break its boundaries? How do you make something like that limitless?
Well, the solution he found was actually pretty simple, but totally profound. He just changed the visualization. The lines of that star were no longer finite sides of a shape. Instead, he started to imagine each line extending outwards, infinitely, in both directions.
And this created a really fascinating new dynamic. It's this powerful mashup of the local and the global. The practice is still anchored right there in his body, at the dantian. But at the exact same time, his focus and energy are expanding outward into infinity. It's both things at once. And the result of this new and improved version? He calls it the infinite agency modality, or IM for short. And he says it gives him what he calls a cosmic perspective, a way of being totally grounded in yourself while also feeling infinitely expansive. But the story doesn't stop there, because what happened next was really cool. When he upgraded this one part of his internal system, it created this unexpected ripple effect, a perfectly symmetrical upgrade in another related practice he does.
See, he has this other practice called the soul kernel, and he describes it as the softer, being-focused counterpart to the doing-focused agency modality. As you can see, it's different. It uses the pulse instead of the breath, a different mantra. They're designed to be complementary.
Okay, so to understand how the soul kernel got its upgrade, we have to quickly talk about a concept from Buddhist meditation called vipassana. It basically means insight. The idea is that once you get a really stable anchor in your meditation, like your breath, it becomes this reference point that starts giving you all sorts of insights into everything else in your life.
So it makes sense, right? As the agency modality got more powerful and expansive, the soul kernel, its balancing partner, naturally had to become a stronger, more stable anchor. This strengthening allowed for much greater insight, or vipassana, which turned it into what he now calls the advanced soul kernel, or ASK.
So, to wrap it all up, this whole period of internal R&D resulted in two major system upgrades. The agency modality became the infinite agency modality, IM, for gaining that expansive cosmic perspective. And the soul kernel became the advanced soul kernel, ASK, for getting deeper, more stable insight into life.
You know, diving deep into one person's highly personal system like this really leaves us with a provocative thought. As the outer technology of our world just keeps accelerating at this incredible pace, what's the role of our own inner technology? How important is it that we develop it and maybe even upgrade it, just to keep our balance? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.